Hello YouTubers, and welcome to my channel. I'm in the process of building some fence trellis, and I have to make about 24 6-foot by 2-foot trellises, and I have the wood here and I have a bunch of wood to make the slats. It's going to be more or less this dimension, which is about 4 centimeters by 1 centimeter, and I've also bought loads of wood that's got to be resized to this size. Each one of these trellises needs about 18 slats. And of course the problem of how to cut the side rails to accept the slats. And here's the side rail, and there'll be diagonal cuts or grooves in here into which the slats fit. Now I looked on YouTube, there are a number of quite expensive jigs. There are a couple of people that have made their own, and some of them are very good. However, for the sake of simplicity, I came up with this idea. Here's my old Sears Craftsman router table. Unfortunately, the router that I put on there, which is a 2 horsepower Porter cable, I couldn't get that to fit. So what I did is I got this piece of veneered MDF, cut a hole in the middle, dropped some screws through it and bolted the router to that. So in effect I have a new router table. What's good about this is that it enables me to screw battens to the surface of the table, so it actually opens up a world of possibilities that I didn't have before. So how does this work? Well, this is my idea. 2 battens running parallel with the router bit in the center, a piece of board, plywood board that's cut 10 by 10. That fits in there and slides neatly up and down. I've got a 12mm, half inch, basically 12mm router bit in there, which is actually the exact width of the slats that I need to. I'm going to be cutting grooves for, and then I'm going to take this. Depending on the angle that you wish to make the grooves for the slats, I can rotate this. I will then place the wood onto it, and by pushing this onto the router, hang on a second, when this is all screwed down, I push this onto the router. I'll be cutting a 30-degree slot into the wood. Now this is an open back slot, I admit. This is not one that is in the center. In order to achieve that, I'd have to lower the wood onto the router bit and do it, but that isn't necessary for these fence lattices. So the simplicity of this seems to me seems like a good idea. And then when I want to cut the other direction, I simply shift that wood to 30 degrees in the other direction and cut the other side. So this is really a very inexpensive way to go about cutting open back louvers, if that's what you want to do. And as I said, for a garden fence, it's perfect. You can see here I set the angle to 30 degrees, measuring off the side of the sliding device. I guess I could call that a sliding tray. So this is now 30 degrees relative to the side of the tray here. So as you slide, whatever you place on here, it's going to be 30 degrees relative to the cutter bit. Here we are again. You can see the jig has been made. The router bit is installed. This sliding base plate here moves across the router. The distance that this router bit travels is determined by the stop block here. So I'm not doing a through groove there, so it gives me a little bit of space. Vacuum cleaner hose to take away most of the dust. I've got a compressed air jet there. What I normally do is I cut all the way up to about there, then I just blow away this dust that wasn't extracted, and then I can close that all the way. Now, to help lock all this into place, I have this clamp the distance of the grooves from the end of the wood has to be carefully measured. Over here you can see, I'll show you this one. I've got one here that I've made. So it slides in, it doesn't break the wood there, there's a little bit of a gap on that end, but that enables me to get them all in, and you can see a little bit of gap at that top edge, a little bit of breakage there, and there's a total of 18 grooves for the 18 slats. And I've set it up to cut one side, so you can see there all the ones I've cut. I think there's 15, and I have another 6 there to go, plus the one on the table, and then that's all the grooves I need to cut for the right hand side of the panel. I put that stop there where that blue paper is. That's where that lines up the first cut, and I lock it in place, turn the router on, and slide it across the bit. It's that simple. And then when I've done that, I insert this. It's actually it's a socket from a socket and wrench set. Insert that into that hole. This distance between the router and this is carefully measured depending on what I'm trying to actually cut. That groove there sits onto that bit, and that acts as a stop or holds it in place. And then I lock it down and I cut the second one. And then when I've done that, I unlock it and I move it along, and I put that particular groove, that one I've just cut, I put that socket inside that groove and I clamp it down, and I repeat the process. And that enables me to cut all these grooves. They're all exactly the same distance from each other, and I get 18 from one end to the other. Just make sure that they all fit inside these tongues here, because that's where the bottom and top rail will come, so you don't want to go beyond that, the edge of this wood here. And that all works because this measurement has been calculated to be exactly right from the edge of the router bit. So that took a bit of fiddling about to try to get that right. In fact, I didn't get it right the first time, and I had to fill the hole in with some sort of Bondo or Ronseal wood filler. It's a sort of two-part compound that goes hard very quickly. It's like a plastic. And then I had to cut it again, and I got it right the second time. And then there's another one that's under here. You can't see it, but it's the same thing. It has to be equidistant from the outside edge of the router bit where it cuts, and the other one on the other side is the same distance, which enables me to turn this and lay it the other way and cut the other side. So what we have here is a framework that's been just loosely connected together, hasn't been glued. But that's what I would do next, so I would clamp those together and drive some heavy duty staples in the corners through the bottom rail. That will go into the tongue there and bind that all together. And when that's done, that will be glued as well as stapled. I ended up making 370 slats for these fence units. I'm going to show you a finished one. There's a finished one actually standing on its end. I'll lay it on the trestle so you can see it more clearly. This is what they look like when they're finished. I think they look pretty nice, to be honest. You can see the detailing there, how all that goes together quite nicely. There's no gaps. And you can't really see through it, which is nice. So when you walk past that, you get a very limited view through it, and the air can pass through it. So that's one of 23. I've made about 9 so far, and they're slightly different lengths. Some are a bit shorter, some are a bit longer, but the majority are 6 foot panels.